Okay, ladies and gentlemen, problems with patterns. For the next little while, we're going to be looking at patterns in mathematics. Whether we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, a lot of problems that we're going to encounter requiring mathematical thinking are going to involve recognizing some kind of pattern. So, an example of a pattern problem. Kyan wanted to buy a new Lego set. It will cost $150. He has $34 in his bank account. Every week he gets $3 for an allowance. Every second week he gets $2 for feeding his neighbor's pet rat. How long will it take him to earn the money to buy this new Lego set? And the other question I threw in here, because we need to think about this, is what is the pattern rule? In other words, what is the pattern? How can we identify it? What kind of information does the pattern give us? Now, I can see that it's efficient, it provides an accurate answer, shows my thinking and calculations, and proves the solution is efficient. In other words, we don't use unnecessary steps. So we might use mental math, that is, figure things out in our head. The problem with that is that if you're trying to prove to somebody what the answer is to a particular problem, they can't see inside your head. So you need to show something. You maybe need to show some equations or some diagrams or charts or tables, some sort of strategy to show us what your thinking is, which is step number 3. You need to show your thinking. It needs to be clear. I need to see inside your head so that I know that you understand, or I can help you where you've gone wrong. Of course, answers are appropriate and necessary, so your answer needs to be accurate. But keep in mind, some problems might have multiple answers. And we're going to see a problem today that could have different answers depending on how we approach it. You also need to prove that you understand the question, the topic, or the concept that we're looking at. That's probably the most important thing right off the bat, is you need to understand what the question's asking you. And lastly, before you hand something in or you share it with the class, you need to make sure that it makes sense, that you've used an appropriate strategy, and that it's easy to understand, and that your calculations make sense. Now, if you want to really blow us away, if you want something that really exceeds expectations, then you need to find something missing in the problem, or you need to extend it beyond what's obvious in the problem to make a connection to the real world in some way. And so the example we have today, this will actually provide you an idea for how you might be able to do that. Now, but when we're looking for a pattern, in fact, really any math problem, there's 4 basic things we want to do. And we wrote about this last week, and I liked reading those because it gave me an idea of where we stand in our thinking about this. We need to identify what is the question. What are we actually being required to do? Then we need some kind of plan. What strategy are we going to use to solve this? Then we need to carry out the plan, making our thinking visible. And finally, we need to check whether or not the answer makes sense. If we do those 4 things, chances are we're going to have a good solution. So let's look at the problem. Let's look at a possibility. All right, here's the problem. Kyan wants to buy a new Lego set. I really don't need to know much about that. All I need to know is it's going to cost $150. He starts with $34. He gets 3 weeks, $3 every week. Every second week he gets an additional $2. Now right off the bat, I can tell here that we've got a pattern, because he gets a certain amount 1 week, and then every second week in the even weeks, the second week, the 4th week, the 6th week, the 8th week, the 10th week, and so on, he gets an additional $2. So there's a pattern here. And with this, I can sort of figure out how many weeks it's going to take him to buy the new Lego set. So here's what the question is asking. The question is asking me, how long will it take? So my units, my final answer is going to probably be in weeks. So I made myself a table. That's my strategy. My strategy on this question was to make myself a little table so that I can make my thinking visible and it's clear to everybody exactly what I'm doing. So we know that he starts out with $34 and we know that he wants to eventually get to 150. I know that in week 1, he's going to get $3, but every second week, he's going to get 2 plus $3, which is 5. In the odd weeks, he's going to get 3, so I'm going to go and fill those in. In the even weeks, he's getting $5. So my pattern rule here is every second week, he's getting $5. Every odd week, he's getting only $3. Or I could say every 2 weeks, add $8. So let's figure out what the totals are going to be. We started with 34. So after 1 week, I have $38 if I'm Kyan. I've got $42 after 2 weeks, and so on. I'm just going to go and fill this in. Now, I always want to go back and make sure that my math makes sense. 38 plus 5 is 42. 42 plus 3 is 45. 45 plus 5 is 50. 50 plus 3 is 53. 53 plus 5 is 58. 58 plus 3 is 61. 61 plus 5, oh, I made a mistake. So this just shows us, ladies and gentlemen, we need to make sure that we always check our steps before we move on to the next one. 61 plus 5 is 66. So that makes 66 plus 3 is 69, not 70, which makes my final here, after 10 weeks, $74. So Kyan has $74 after 10 weeks. We're still really nowhere near, or I guess we're about halfway to our final total of 150. But I like to work in tens because tens are easy to work with. So I know I've got another pattern rule here, is that after 10 weeks, I know that I've got $40 every 10 weeks. Every 10 weeks, Kyan makes $40. Now, how do I know that? Well, I take my 74, which I had at the end of 10 weeks, and I minus it. I subtract my original 34. 4 minus 4 is 0. 70 minus 30 is 40. So I know that every 10 weeks, he's getting $40. So I know that after 20 weeks, Kyan now has $80. And I know that after 30 weeks, Kyan has earned 120. This isn't how much he has, this is just what he's earned. Now, I can look back and I can add my original 34 that I started with if I'm Kyan, and I now have $154. Do I have enough? If I'm Kyan, I now have enough. So I could go ahead and write my answer. Now, that would probably be a 5 out of 5 so far, if that's what I did. But let me just take this one step further. I want, as much as possible, to be able to have my students connect problems to the real world. And in the real world, at least in British Columbia, we pay tax. And we pay 12 cents on every $1. So that means we're going to spend $12 tax on every $100. And $150, well, 50 is half of 100, and half of 12 is 5. So I need to, half of 12 is 6. So that means that on $150, I'm going to have $18 tax. added to my $150. 8 plus 0 in the ones is 8. 10 plus 5 is 60. And 168. So my total is actually going to be $168 if I make the assumption that tax has not been included. Now, Lindsay Kim was pretty smart about this earlier today, and she said, well, Mr. Wolders, what if we assume that the $150 is the total with all the tax? That makes sense, and I would maybe want to explain that in my answer just so that I know my math teacher knows that I'm thinking beyond the problem, that I'm considering a possible extension or a possible extra idea, because sometimes in math problems we don't always get all the information. We sometimes need to figure things out beyond the information that's provided. Sometimes we don't even get numbers. For example, how long would it take me to drain my swimming pool? Well, there's a lot of things I would need to figure out. But let's go back to this problem. $168. After 30 weeks, I've got 154 here. So we need to go and figure out what we're going to have at week 31, week 32, week 33, week 34, and so on. So I'm going to draw what my table here is going to look like after these weeks, and I'm just going to continue what I did before. So I knew that after, on 31, my odd weeks, I was getting $3, even weeks 5, odd weeks 3, 5, and so on. So I know that at the end of 30 weeks, I had $154. So now I've got 157 after 3 weeks. After, put this up here, that makes more sense to put it there. I'll have 162 after 32 weeks. I'll have 165 after 33 weeks. And I'll have 170 after 34 weeks. So now I know what my answer is going to be, and I'm just going to make myself a little box over here so people can see. Here's my final answer. Again, I want to make my thinking clear. My thinking is going to be really clear here, and I'm going to make this a bit bigger so that I can see what I'm doing. Kyan needs 34 weeks to raise the money for his Lego set. Kai needs 34 weeks to raise his money for his Lego set. Now I've got a 5 out of 5 solution, because if